If you want to support me on Patreon, then please follow the link in the description. Any donations will be helpful. Alright, here's the next commission for Electrical Geek from DeviantArt, as I recall. It is Zonic the Zone Cop, one of those characters that makes you wonder why I didn't get around to making him years ago. But, as this is a character from the Archie Sonic comic universe, you know what must come. So let's get this out of the way. Okay, so Zonic the Zone Cop. His first appearance was in one of the Sonic Super Specials, I think number 12, where, it was the Sally Moon issue. Yeah, that's where Sonic got attacked by a female version of Robotnik, who is obviously a Queen Beryl analog, and a much taller and slenderer Princess Sally came to stop her, and was aided by Tuxedo Nux. I am so nostalgic for 90s comics right now. Yeah, there actually was a Sailor Moon version of Princess Sally. That is a thing that happened. Alright, so this is where Zonic explained his nature. He is an inhabitant of the No Zone, which is a perpendicular universe that intersects all of reality. His job is to make sure that people who travel between dimensions, stay in the ones that they're supposed to be in and don't go to the ones they're not supposed to go to. So every time Sonic went into a special zone to get a Chaos Emerald, every time he visited another universe, those were the subtle machinations of Zonic. Now, as for Zonic's character himself, he kinda remained as a plot device / Deus Ex Machina for whenever the writers didn't really know what was going on in Sonic's world. They just have a parallel universe story and have Zonic be the storytelling device. Oh, by the way, you may notice in this picture of the Gotchaman version of Sonic that Zonic is sideways. That's because as a perpendicular universe inhabitant, every time he manifests in one of the parallel universes, he appears to be rotated 90 degrees relative to everything else. If you were to go to the No Zone, as a panel with Sonic standing in all that computer equipment before, it would show you would be perpendicular to everything. Of course, in later appearances, they would come up with compensators that would allow them to appear right side up, but, it's just kind of funny to have this one sideways guy. He's almost literally he's kind of like Batmite or one of those fourth wall breaking characters, that just kind of, just looks really out of place. Anyway, I digress. I wanted to get into his character, and it started in the Kaiju Sonic universe. This is a parallel universe where a version of Dr. Robotnik accidentally, he wasn't evil, this is all accidental, released chaos energy that turned the inhabitants of Knothole into giant monsters, and they would regularly attack the city. So he had to fend them off. Sonic, his mission was to go to this universe and retrieve one of the Chaos Emerald halves so that they could power the giant robots necessary to fight off the kaiju. In this universe, he accidentally killed the kaiju that was based off of his father. This was devastating to poor Sonic, and it is where Zonic revealed that he was actually the perpendicular version of Sonic himself. So yeah, he knew the pain. He also just saw a version of his father die right there. Of course, this was actually quite obvious to us, the audience, that Zonic was supposed to be a perpendicular Sonic, but trust me, it was a reveal in the comic at the time. Also, one quick little thing. Here is a time when Zonic was injured. He's lying in a hospital bed. So, he's sideways, lying down in a hospital bed. Doesn't that mean he's standing right side up? Like for him to be lying down, wouldn't he have to be vertical? Come on, I don't think they introduced the compensators yet, and even if they had, he's clearly not wearing his equipment, so he shouldn't have it. Come on, how do you mess that up? It would have been funny to have Dr. Quack resting Zonic on a vertical standing bed. That would have been funny. Of course, with character development comes expansion. So once we actually got a feel for who Zonic was, we actually got to see the fact that the universe is actually full of many Zone Cops. In fact, almost every character in the No Zone is a parallel from the Prime Zone that is a Zone Cop. I'm actually starting to wonder if there's actually any regular citizenry in the No Zone, or if everyone who lives there is a Zone Cop, and their sole purpose of existence is to watch over all the parallel versions of themselves, and that's kind of a cursed existence. Although we do see kind of a different job, at least like Zooge, the perpendicular version of Rouge, is actually a counselor in Zone Jail. So she has a job as a counselor and not a Zone Cop. So I don't know. Maybe they do have other careers, and it just so happens that all the Zone Cops we see are based off of superheroes. Whatever. So yeah, the first time that he was actually majorly involved in the story as part of the conflict itself was when Mammoth Mogul went around destroying all of reality, and he had to recruit Sonic and Tails, who was supposedly the chosen one, to stop this. I actually touched upon this in the Mammoth Mogul custom, so if you want to go back to Mammoth Mogul's backstory. But suffice to say, Zonic had gone to every parallel universe he could get to and recruited every single Tails, including some that were evil, including Miles, the evil Tails. Anyway, they all combined to tighten Tails, and they fought off Mammoth Mogul, and they restored the multiverse, but that's Tails' story, it's not Zonic's. Zonic's final appearance would have been in Sonic Universe, the Jailbreak storyline. He pretty much got his butt kicked by the Destructix and Scourge. Not his finest moment, but, you know, like, this was where all the Zone Cops were featured, and we actually got a little bit of humanization on the No Zone. Too bad that it's most likely been stricken from continuity now. That's very sad. Alright, so let's go ahead and make the toy now. Today's figure is, of course, Sonic. We are, after all, making a Sonic. Although, take a look at this figure that Electrical Geek sent me. It has 2 right feet. I mean, I know Jazzwares can occasionally get kind of sloppy with QC, but come on! Anyway, I didn't even use the legs. The legs would be coming from a Wave figure, and they would be slightly modified to feature all of the armor that the boots of the Zone Cop uniform have. Oh, by the way, the way Zonic looks is basically going to be from his final appearance in that Jailbreak storyline. So you know, that, because the costume has gone through many changes over the years. So the arms, kind of like what I did when I was making all the Mega Man characters, just gotta build up that armor around his forearms, because I believe that's where he puts his No Zone blasters. Although the shoulder pads you see here, I would end up breaking them off because they just didn't accommodate the head. I would go ahead and make new shoulder pauldrons out of thinner material so that the head would have room to fit. The armor on the body is, you know, it's that collar thing he wears. Although I guess I did take one deviation from the official look in that I allowed his back spines to come out of the back of the uniform, and then the collar is over them. I just like the idea that a little bit of Sonic's anatomy is poking out from this uniform, because he doesn't have to be anonymous anymore, you know? Speaking of Sonic's anatomy, as you can see, I pretty much had to completely erase the entire structure of his head. This is where I'm happy that Jazzwares figures have solid heads, because, you know, I wouldn't have been able to do this with one of the Tomy figures. Although I probably would have just split it in half along the seam, and then, it would have been really hard to get it back on the neck. I'm happy it's a solid head. It's easier to work with. So once this was all cut away, I sculpted the helmet on. Now, as I said, this is the Jailbreak version, so the helmet actually has its own shape, kind of similar to Link's hat. Cause Zonic, if you've seen his helmet designs in the whole biopic part of this custom video, you would have seen that he was often depicted with a round helmet. This was to completely disguise his spines and try and keep the reveal a little bit secret. Although, come on, like, we all know that it's a perpendicular Sonic. I mean, come on! Come on! So I actually like the helmet that tries to conform to the shape of Sonic's spines a little better. I mean, I imagine it must be very uncomfortable to stuff those spines into a round helmet. And once I had to actually paint it, because you're seeing it's painted now. That's because the visor and the ear bits, I'm going to call them, they had to go on after that part was painted, because how are you going to paint under that, right? The visor is made out of the shell of a gumball machine prize bubble, you know, those things, one of the small size ones. And yeah, then, you know, the ears are just sculpted on. So let's put the figure together and see Zonic the Zone Cop complete. And here we go! Okay, one thing that the nitpickers out there might notice is that the helmet does not have the chin strap. Zonic's helmet always seemed to have a chin strap, which kind of looks cool when you draw it, but, you know, like, just wouldn't fit. It would not fit on the way that this figure is built. Unless the character has a neck, or if the sculpt of his chest had been collapsed inward a bit to accommodate and make space for it, then there's no way I can build that chin strap in, so there's no chin strap on the helmet. Sorry about that, but, you know, we're working within physical limitations here. So, there you go. That is Zonic the Zone Cop. He looks really cool. I do know that, that painting the pauldrons was a bit of a hard time, but other than that, the figure came out great. Okay, so this is Wake Angel 2001. Thank you all for watching this video. Remember to support me on Patreon to, you know, support me more.